Welcome to Success Unleashed, Beyond the Job Site, the only podcast created to help contractors win in business and in life. And now your host, Gerritt Bake.
Welcome back to another episode of the Success Unleashed podcast. We have another special guest with us here today, Cameron Barr. So Cameron is the owner of Barr Construction. They've been in business since September of 2020. However, he's been in business, or the construction game, we'll say, for the last 16 years. Last year, Barr Construction generated $15.5 million in revenue. This year on track to do between $22 and $25 million. Now, what do they focus on? Well, commercial development and working on some high-end homes, but they also do some land development as well. So he's really involved on the commercial or high-end side of things. It's a family business. He works with his wife, Amber, and father-in-law as well. And some other family members, which I'm sure we'll get into here in a minute. But really, I want you to understand how excited I am to have our next guest, Cameron Barr. Cameron, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't known each other for that long. I like to tell people, yeah, we've known each other for a long time. No, it hasn't been that long. But for the time that I've known you, it's interesting because your approach to business is different from what a lot of people's approach is, right? A lot of people in the construction industry, they come in with a certain mentality of how things should be done. And it's really based on the way things have always been done. And we'll talk more about you and your business and how it is that you do things. But what I really want to start off with is talking about you, right? And your life. Like, how did you end up where you're at today? I know that's kind of like opening up the Pandora's box, right? But like, how did you grow up? Like, how did you end up in construction?
Yeah. So I grew up in the Salt Lake Valley, was always fascinated with different types of architecture. And as I'd go look at all the big buildings, right? In Los Angeles and New York and Seattle. And I was fascinated, like, how those buildings got built. I grew up playing baseball. We played a lot of tournaments in Las Vegas. And so we were always down, and it's just fascinating to see how those came together. Speed up, I guess, when I was graduating from school, I decided that I was going to be an architect so I could design those buildings, and very quickly realized that my mindset, I feel like I have an engineering, like tinkering mind on certain things. Didn't quite work really well with the design component of how that is. I'm much more fascinated with how things go together, come together, the process to get them to that point, with the end goal, obviously, looking the way they do. So that piqued my interest. And then I really quickly realized that I needed to understand how they got built. And so I had some pretty good opportunities just with neighbors and whatnot. Started off framing houses and just slowly kind of worked my way into a commercial background, and then coupled that with school and just got to kind of where we're at.
Did you have Legos growing up?
I did. Yeah.
So you had Legos. Now, were you the guy who read the instructions and followed the Lego, build, if you will? Or were you the guy that like just said, okay, here's a bunch of Lego pieces, I'm just going to go for it?
I think come up with maybe a little bit of both. I did like understand the process of how things got to be a certain way. But yeah, the creative side of that, there was always definitely a few pieces left over. You try to figure out where you went wrong and if it was still going to stand, right?
Oof. Man, excuse me. Always a good time when you're choking. See, we just edit that part.
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
Okay. So you grew up, you had a fascination for architecture, which is, again, it's different from where a lot of people come from. Now, what was it about the architecture or the way things are put together that interested you so much?
I just felt like there's a way to make things look a certain way, but there's a way to have things look that way. And I still feel like a lot of the architects and people who work with are very good and understand what that is, but there is a complexity of knowing how to build what you want something to look like. And for me, I just fell in love with that avenue of it. I liked the engineering component of it. I liked being able to figure out how to put those things together to make that work, to then still get the pretty picture at the end.
Well said. Now, how did you decide that construction was for you? I mean, you worked on a lot of different aspects of the construction industry as you were growing up, right? Probably summer jobs, side jobs, friends of a friend kind of a thing. How did you finally decide, like, this is the thing that I want to do?
Yeah. So I actually had very little experience with it growing up. I think it was something that I was interested in, and I got opportunities usually right out of high school is when I had some opportunities to go work in the field. I quickly realized that I liked what I was doing. I also saw it as an essential component of what I felt like I needed to do as just as far as my understanding and where I wanted to go. But there was also another component of that as far as I liked the idea of coupling education with that and being able to work smart at the same time as you're working hard. So I had a couple of good opportunities when I was younger. I was working and was exposed to a lot of interesting opportunities, but I actually almost got out of it because the business component of it just really, the companies I was with just really, I didn't like. And almost to the point where I was like 3 strikes, you're out. I was going to school, so I have a bachelor's degree in construction management from Weber State. I was just about to finish doing that, and I was kind of at my wit's end with company number 2, and just decided I either need to find somewhere that I feel like I have a home, or I'm going to actually not do this, and was actually probably going to go into the medical field. And luckily I graduated and I got a really good opportunity. That opportunity allowed me to really grow and really find myself in the construction space. And as soon as that, as soon as I had that job, I knew that this is how I thought construction was or how it could be. And that company I worked with for quite a while, and yeah, we had a great time.
That's interesting because I want to, progressively we could talk about, how you started your company, and I know we'll get into that, but I want to kind of deviate out the topic based on what you just said. You talked a little bit about, kind of 3 strikes and you're out, so there's this point that you were thinking about maybe just completely transitioning into another field. What do you think is the biggest issue or problem in the construction industry today, internally?
Internally?
Yeah.
I think there's a couple points that we try to identify with our company that I felt like I wasn't getting on the earlier days. And I know that I had I was an assistant project manager and I had some, smaller titles, I guess you could say, but I felt like I was just there as a number, and then I was treated that way as well. So when the job was done, I was done. There was no useful life for Cam outside of, X task. And I knew that I couldn't be reliant upon other people fully if I really wanted to maximize my ability. So I felt like that was one for me that just, I didn't like. When I did graduate and I got the opportunity, probably the second thing is I was pigeonholed into a certain task or a certain role. But it always bothered me when I went to school, you learn about all facets of construction or project management. And for me, I just didn't feel like I wanted to just be a guy. I have some really good friends who are schedulers or who are safety guys or who are project managers or superintendents, and that's all they want to be. And that is great. And they're fantastic people. But for me, I did not just want to be that. And so I knew that opportunities were there if given the right framework to do it. So I feel like that's another one that is just lacking. I don't like when people just think that people are a number and they're just there for their useful life and on they go. There's much more to it than that.
I like that. And I want to ask a follow-up question on that. Do you think that there would be such a high attrition rate in the construction industry if owners, and again, plumbing business owner, electrician, builder, doesn't matter, but if owners paid more attention to their employees and actually gave them an opportunity to grow into a particular role?
I think so. I think trades are maybe a little bit different than a general contractor, because some of those roles are specific for plumbing, like you'd mentioned, or HVAC or whatever. But there is so much more to just being an electrician that I do think people, especially younger generation people, want. And I think that those opportunities should be afforded. The number one thing that we talk about is how can we reinvent ourselves through somebody else to just help them be on a similar or same kind of wavelength that we are, so that we can duplicate our efforts somewhere else. So there's a personal growth, there's professional growth, and I feel like those are really big. And then they can happen in any field, whether that's on ground level or in an office doing the estimating or project management or handling the schedules, or even in being involved with the finances, or even some business decisions. I feel like those opportunities should be afforded to people.
Yeah, I like that. And I mean, because we've had this conversation before with your team and on a one-on-one basis, there's something that a lot of contractors don't pay attention to, and that's their people, right? And not realizing that we're all individuals, and yes, we want to help you build your business, but at the end of the day, we're also in it for us, right? Yep. And it's about creating that mutually beneficial relationship. And we talked about, one of those things being, behavior profiling, right? How do we put the right person in the right seat so that they can take advantage of the right opportunity, right? Now, from your perspective, and you've got how many employees now?
7.
You've got 7 employees. From your perspective, what do you think would be different about your business if earlier you had paid more attention to these guys and said, hey, look, I want to put you in the right position so that not only you can succeed, but you're also helping the business succeed?
Yeah, I think that our business is early on right now. And I do think that's actually one thing that we try to focus on, because we have experienced a lot of growth. We work with a lot of really good clients, but even our business model, I feel like if we want to continue to serve those people in the way that, myself or my wife are talking to them in the beginning, then our employees need to do the same. And we don't even really look at the people that we hire as employees, and genuinely we don't. A lot of them we've known for a long time, and we hire people that we know specifically for those reasons. I think that it just provides a lot of synergy with what they want to do, with what we need in the business, but then also allows them to grow in a way that they feel fulfilled just as much as we would.
That's a great answer right there. I love how you said that, right? Being fulfilled, but on both sides, right? Because employees are a reflection of you, and they are a reflection of your business. And I do fully believe that if business owners, contractors spent more time paying attention to their people, then the business would naturally grow, right? Sometimes we get a little locked focused on, I need more leads and I need more sales, and we're pushing, we're driving, and then we're just leaving people by the wayside.
Yeah.
So really like that. Yeah. Let's go back to you. So how was it that you decided that, hey, you know what? I want to start my own company, right? So you'd worked as a project manager, for different companies, some bad experiences, some good experiences. What was it that made you think now's the time to make that transition?
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think when I had first graduated with my bachelor's degree, I knew, okay, this is what I was hoping I would experience. And then as I worked for several years, I had really good mentors. I had people that, really helped me understand not only construction, but almost the old school way versus the new school way. And I felt like as I continued to grow, just more and more of those opportunities became apparent, not only with owners, but with different developers or different architects or different people that we had worked with. And I think there were a couple things that, as you were working just for other people, right, that I hoped to or would have had received that didn't happen, some unfulfilled promises that I felt like I was doing my part, but it wasn't coming back. And again, it was kind of that same thing. Like that just for me, I was like, well, I know that there could be a better way. How do we make this work to where it's, works for everybody, it's beneficial. And, when I finished doing a master's degree at the University of Utah in real estate development, I think it all was kind of a culmination of, we have the experience, we have the contact base, we have the capability to go out and do projects, on our own. And so we started looking, and we had a lot of really good opportunities. And as we started to see those through, it just became apparent that this is a good opportunity and something that we should consider. And my wife and I spent a lot of time considering it. When we decided to start our own company, we hired our general superintendent, and we didn't take a paycheck for the first, I think it was 5 months, just to make sure that we could get the right person in right off the bat. And yeah, it was just a labor of love. It was very stressful at times, but I think ultimately we knew, hey, we can do this. And that the framework had been there and had been set for years and years of work to where we felt comfortable we could go.
And off you went.
Yeah. And we haven't looked back ever since. So
now you have a unique perspective on things because you work every single day with your wife, with Amber. Now, what's that been like?
Honestly, for me, it's been amazing. Just she offers just a completely different perspective to things that I think counterbalances what we try to do. Even personality wise, she's very much more straightforward with things than I am. But I think it's all the decisions and everything that we do together. And for the most part, we're very aligned with how things need to happen. And it's allowed us to just streamline our process and get things moving in the right direction quickly, to where we've been able to scale the way that we have. I've enjoyed it. She's ultimately the boss, right? I don't, at the end of the day, she's the one that, definitely makes sure that everything is good to go. But it's definitely been very beneficial for me to have that resource, especially close to home as it is for us.
What would you say the biggest struggle is working with your spouse every single day?
I don't know, actually. And maybe Amber and I are in a unique situation, but we really don't struggle. I know that it's probably the biggest thing is just the time commitment that we've put into our business so far we put a lot of time and effort into it, and we work 12 to 14, 16 hour days most weeks. And we're okay with that. We know that this is something that we've created. We're putting our time and our resources and our effort into it because we know that it can be successful. I think spending more time on that and maybe dialing it back and just making sure that everything else, home life is also good as well. But I think we've done a really good job at figuring that out. But again, it's been very beneficial because I feel like we've had a lot of growth. We've experienced a lot, but it puts a lot of time and effort into it. But I've got a running mate that is willing to do it.
Yeah. And I think everybody understands that's a rarity, right? To have a spouse that's on board, but not just on board on supporting, but she's in the trenches with you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unique.
Yeah.
As we're looking at your business, right? So September 2020, you got started. Here we are in 2024. Over these last 4-ish years, what do you think your biggest struggle has been?
I honestly think our biggest struggle has just been trying not to grow too quickly. We've been very fortunate. We have a lot of work. Luckily, that has really not been an issue. And a lot of self-generated opportunities that we've been chasing through developments or on our own. I'd probably say 90 to 92% of all of our work is negotiated. So we very rarely bid in the open market for anything.
Why is that? Because that's a massive number. Why do you think that is?
I think it's twofold. One is I don't want to spend time chasing down opportunities that aren't there. And I feel like, again, just with a lot of the relationships that we have and the people that we've been able to do projects with, we are not a one and done contractor with anybody. We keep our network pretty small, and we add to that in a very strategic way. And we will, once you're in, I mean, we'll go wherever. And we're looking at projects in all the surrounding states to Utah right now with certain clients, and willing to travel for any of them. But it's got to be the right fit. It's got to be for the right people. And I feel like a lot of it just comes down to there's common goals. There's an understanding of what's expected, what we offer, what is needing to be done. And, we're willing to step up to the plate and do it. And we've proven that we can through successfully completing a lot of projects over the last couple of years. And that has just turned into more and more repeat opportunities that's where we spend our time.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. A lot of time building relationships, it sounds like.
Yeah, years and years. And that was one of the major things that I wanted in place before we went out on our own. In fact, like when we had said that we wanted to go do this, I started calling very trusted architects and subcontractors and vendors and said, hey, if I go out on my own, are you going to come with me? And every one of them had said yes. And so I knew that I had a buy-in with essential people that I needed, to where when we had our first project, and our first project was a 5-story, 85,000 square foot building in Salt Lake City. So it wasn't small. And we needed those people, and they came. And so for me, that was one of the big things that had to be in place before we did it.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, as we look at the industry as a whole, right? You're involved at a very particular level in that you're involved in development, but you're also involved in building, but you also work with a lot of trade contractors, right? So you're kind of all the way up and down the scale here. As you look at the industry as a whole, what do you see being some of the biggest struggles?
I know that the industry, it needs more like good tradesmen. Definitely. I think that everybody would agree to that. I think that there's a good knowledge base of people that are in the industry now that could be teaching and training the next up and coming generation. And we see that through a lot of our business. Most of the vendors and subcontractors we use are all repeat for us. And some of them were some of their biggest clients. And so we get to know them on, again, a kind of a different level. But I know that's a big one. I think the one that I always like harp on is I think everybody wants to promote a sense of unity. Projects that have people that are involved earlier on get way more involvement, attention to detail, even pricing in certain ways is there. But I feel like not only just saying, hey, we have opportunities coming up, but just showing, like legitimately this morning, I sent out 4 new projects to people to say, this is a brand new apartment project that we're working on, or this is a project that we're going to be starting in a couple weeks. And some of those people have already seen those projects for months. So like they know that we're committed to them. And so they're willing to be committed to us. I think that's a big thing. Like we just don't turn and burn subcontractors. They are the lifeblood of what we do. And we integrate that in as much as we can every day.
It sounds like you're saying you're treating the subcontractors as partners instead of, hey, you're just another sub, on to the next. If you don't do a good job, we're moving.
Yep.
So you're getting more buy-in from them at an earlier stage, which is building the relationship, and they want to be with you long-term because they trust you, you trust them. How has that helped you secure and then ultimately complete some of the projects that you've done?
Yeah, I think it's helped us in a lot of ways where people have known that, Cam's got a project. I've seen this project. It came out a couple months ago, and it's not just I'm just another number. Like when we have certain projects that go out, even from the beginning, like we're pretty strategic on who we send those to, because we want them to feel just as much of a partner as anybody. And it's not just another project for them. And because for us, it's not just another project for us. Most of these times it's through the repeat clients, or it's a second or third, project with the same owner. And so I think we just start at the very ground level, and we're very transparent with everybody on exactly what needs to happen and how it needs to get there. But then we also rely on their feedback. And so when we're bringing projects in, that we bring them to the table and have them help us not only provide pricing or scheduling, but they're the ones that are also speccing equipment or saying we should lay out, units a certain way. They're the ones that know how these things go together. And I'm not going to try to out-talk somebody else. And so we bring them to the table and let them help. And then in turn, we give those projects to them. We don't shop it out. If they're committed to us, we're committed to them. So
it's huge, very huge. And I think that's what's missing in the industry right now is it's very transactional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I tell people my number one thing is I never want to be a transactional GC. Mm. The day I become a transactional GC, we're moving. And I'll probably get out of the industry, because I just feel like everything we do is relationship based, but it's also purposeful based in that, like, we're dealing with sometimes a lot of money and a lot of people's livelihoods that are signing on the dotted line for certain projects, and everybody has to be committed to that. And it's a big commitment from everybody, but we've had a lot of success by getting people involved and to the table early. And then those projects, when people, they go under construction to build, most of the time those subs know exactly what's going on. They've already been working on it. We can procure materials better. We have better scheduling. I feel like people will give our projects the attention that they need because they know it's coming. It's not just another bid. So I feel like for us, it just starts clear from the beginning.
Yeah, better buy-in. I love it. I want to switch gears just a little bit, right? You've been in the construction industry for 16 years. You've owned your own business about 4 years now. You've blown up pretty quickly, right? To get to the level you're at, we're talking into the $20 million range this year. For you personally, what's been your biggest struggle trying to manage being a husband, being a father, the growth of this business, in your own personal development? What would you say that is?
I think it's just time. I know that everybody says there's not enough time in the day, and I feel like I can prioritize really well, and I've got a pretty good schedule where I know what I need to do almost even to the hour, if it's meetings or appointments or certain tasks. I'm very organized that way. I can stay on top of things that way. But at the end of the day, as much as we enjoy this too, I am those other things. And so I do find myself, I guess, caught in the moment, you could say, where I know that I could be better in certain things. But I think it's that, and then it's, we're laser focused on our business and growing it, but it's also remembering to be laser focused in those other areas of your life too.
What would your biggest piece of advice be to a contractor who's still up and coming and struggling to kind of put all the pieces together?
Yeah, I think the number one thing I would say is you can do it. You can figure it out. And if you don't think that you have the right resources to figure it out, then you can call me and we'll help you figure it out. We did not get to where we're at today without, again, great mentors, great friends and people who have put trust in us and given us opportunities. It does take a lot of work and a lot of time, and you've got to be committed to seeing that through. But it is a great industry to be in, and it is an amazing opportunity to be able to create something, whatever it is, and to be able to own or run a business. There's, you wear a lot of different hats. You got to learn to be flexible. You got to learn to be agile, schedule, time management is key, but you can do it. You definitely can do it. And I think ultimately it comes down to your desires. Do you really want to do it? Do you want to put the time and effort in to do it?
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. Let's change the pace. City with the best architecture.
City with the best architecture?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't even know.
Come on, you're an architecture buff. Which one?
Oh, I stopped that a long time ago.
Yeah, but you still like it. All right.
I like it. Well, I guess it depends on what type of architecture you're talking about.
Oh, which one do you
if it's like if you're talking more of a modern look, right? I mean, I love Seattle. I think Seattle is an amazing city. I think they've got just how they've constructed that city. I love it. But my wife's from England. She grew up in Newcastle, spent a lot of time in Scotland. And I'm very much like old school in that way. I love the older buildings, the fact that, some of the architecture and buildings that are on the other side of the world, right, have been standing for hundreds and hundreds of years. And people back then figured out how to make it work. So I find that very intriguing. So
that is cool.
Yeah.
What about Chicago? They got a mix kind of both.
Yeah. I've never been to Chicago.
What?
Yeah, no.
All right. You got to check out Chicago.
I will.
It's totally cool. All right. Favorite part of what you do right now?
I'd probably say, well, it's probably twofold. One, I really enjoy the people that we work with. So it's being able to actually work and interact with professionals that work for us or work for other people. I feel like it's definitely engaging, and I enjoy that part of it. I also love the hunt for a deal. I love to try to figure things out and make it work. We try to, and we're hell bent on making sure that we can figure it out. And so I do like the challenge of when projects feel like they're stuck or over budget or, having issues with the cities or financing or whatever it is, to be able to jump in and help figure it out.
The old Lego pieces make their return.
Yep.
I love it. Okay. Here's the mystery question. You're starting over. Okay. You don't have anything to your name except $1,000. What are you doing with that $1,000?
Starting over, like with my business?
Yep.
I don't know. I'd probably do something similar to what we've done. I would find the opportunities, and then I would probably use that money to have somebody like come in and help us like figure out how to do it. Yeah, I'm all about surrounding yourself with individuals that challenge you or, motivate you to be better. But I can also like provide that good balance of, just the problem solving or whatever it is. And I will never profess to be the end all be all with that. I know there's people way smarter than me. So I'd probably use that first money to hire somebody to do that.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Well, Cameron, I appreciate you being on the show today, sharing your knowledge. If you were listening or watching, a couple things I want you to take away from this, right? Number one is we don't all come from the same background to end up where we're at, right? But the most important thing, and Cameron mentioned it here at the end, is if you're willing to always surround yourself with somebody who's smarter than you, somebody who's better than you, somebody who's already been there, then what it's going to do, it's going to accelerate your growth, right? But the second most important thing that I got out of this conversation with Cameron is the willingness to build relationships. And that's not just with the people you want to do work for, but the people that you want to work with. And long-term, that's going to lead to more success than trying to find the next guy for the next job over and over and over again. So Cameron, thank you again for being on the show. Appreciate you. Here's to 25 mil this year. We'll make it happen. But you guys know what time it is. It's time for you to get after it. 3, 2, 1. Off you go. Thanks for listening to the Success Unleashed podcast. Before we go, show some love for your favorite podcast by liking, subscribing, and leaving us a review. Until we see you again, it's time to get after it. 3, 2, 1, off you go.